Attended Dr. Michael M. Kropp High School in Miami. His mom described him as an average student. Porton says the teen's parents shared custody since their divorce and both played a very active role in raising him.
Whatever he had dealings with school, it was not criminal. It was not violent. He's never been arrested.
So Porton says that's the reason Trayvon Martin was in Sanford. His parents insisted he stay with his father during his suspension from school. Tracy Martin was out to dinner with his fiancée the night of the shooting. He left his son at home so he could watch the NBA All-Star game.
And the only reason he got a chance to go to the store is because he begged his dad to go to the store.
When Martin's father returned that night, he then assumed his son was out with his 20-year-old nephew, so he didn't panic. But when
when I first heard of it, and it was last night, it just made my blood boil, because we're talking about a minor, we're talking about records that are protected by both federal and state law. To get someone's school records, typically there has to be written consent from the parents if we're dealing with the minor. Now, some would argue that your rights to privacy might die when the person dies, but in this case in particular, the sensitive information, and there's precedents in other cases where information that is sensitive as this, as personal as this, there's an effort to protect that information and not disclose it. We don't know when these records were sought by the police, but we do know that they've been leaked in order to, we can't imagine that anything was intended by those records except to malign this young man's character and to now paint a picture that he's not the good kid that we've been hearing about for the last 30 days or so. And that really troubles me. Kids have a right to privacy. Their records are protected by law. And I think in this case in particular, the police department should have acted with more integrity.
Mark, what do you...
Two children, right?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. And what do you work?
For Miami-Dade Housing Agency.
Okay. All right. And here's a question that I want to ask. Were you surprised to know that your son might have been in such an altercation in Sanford? Knowing his personality, knowing who he was, did that leave you like running?
Yes, it surprised me to know he got into altercation.
Why?
Because that's not something that normally happens. He doesn't he gets along with, he respects adults. He gets along with his peers. Mm-hmm. That wasn't something that's normal for him to get into a fist fight, especially with an adult. Mm-hmm. So, of course, I was surprised.
Tell us about Trayvon.
Two children, right?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. And what do you work?
For Miami-Dade Housing Agency.
Okay. All right. And here's a question that I want to ask. Were you surprised to know that your son might have been in such an altercation in Sanford? Knowing his personality, knowing who he was, did that leave you like running?
Yes, it surprised me to know he got into altercation.
Why?
Because that's not something that normally happens. He doesn't he gets along with, he respects adults. He gets along with his peers. Mm-hmm. That wasn't something that's normal for him to get into a fist fight, especially with an adult. Mm-hmm. So, of course, I was surprised.
Tell us about Trayvon.
A slightly sensitive point, but with the Today Show, and you're mentioning the words coming out of your mouth, something to the effect that the shooting may have been an accident. Were you thinking at that time, uh-oh, I hope that's not taken out of context? What was going through your mind?
I really didn't realize that, I guess that people would hang on every word that I said. And I think they really misunderstood what I said, because it was based on what Tracy had just commented on, and it was about Zimmerman getting out of his vehicle. That is what I mentioned was an accident. The accident was him getting out of his vehicle and them actually having contact with each other. By no means do I think that there was an accident that he shot my son. I believe his intentions when he got out of his vehicle was to go after this kid and kill him. I never, thought that they would just, make up something or believe that I would think that it's an accident. I had never said that before. My intentions was to say that the accident was the encounter. The accident was them actually meeting. If he had remained in his vehicle, this would have never happened.
Things that have come out in the press, the conservative bloggers have been going on and on about fake pictures and about the ages and all that stuff. How does that make you feel? What goes through your mind when you hear and you read about that stuff?
First of all, the pictures that are coming from us, the family, we know what our son's age was on his pictures. The pictures, for instance, the Hollister picture, the picture with him in the Hollister outfit, that was a recent picture. The picture with him in the orange shirt, that may have been the most recent picture of him that we know of. But then they had some pictures on a different website with a kid with a scully on, no shirt, his pants down. Didn't look nothing like Trayvon. It was just someone trying to throw a negative portrayal of him out there. And then I read somewhere along in the news that we were putting out baby face pictures of him. He had a baby face. So we weren't trying to deviate away from anything. All of the pictures that we were putting out were the pictures of our son.
I guess what I'm trying to get at is that this is your baby and your parents, and you have to read about people assassinating his character. That's got to sting a little bit.
Well, we absolutely think that it's a distraction to talk about our son and he's deceased. We think that that's very disrespectful. In addition to that,
it's hatred. It's hatred. You have to have absolute hatred in your heart to try to make a kid, a minor, this bad image when you don't even know him. And as a father, I really took offense to that.
You could have got him like 30 times. Watch out, Trayvon. The better he got him, man. Hey, I want to fucking say, that's super smart. It's okay, guys. Don't fight. You want to take your shirt off. I ain't got anymore. No, don't be fighting. Hey, man. Come on, dude.
Throw me! Stay around. You can take one around, man. Come on, Fred! Oh, wow. Go into the light. Go into the light. They're not in the light. They're not in the light. They're not in the light. Yeah, stay right here. Stay right there. Stay right there in that area. Watch it. Watch it. Watch it. Watch it. Stay in the light. You gotta watch it. Beat him on the flinch. Beat him on the flinch. Straight on. Straight on. Don't close your eyes. Go. 1, 2, go.
A moment beyond the law, and have you just remind us who Trayvon was and what kind of young man he was?
Very bright young man. Trayvon loved his life. He loved his family. Very upbeat kid, mild, laid back. Never been in a run-in never had any run-ins with the law. Trayvon was a people's person. He was my hero, and he'll be sadly missed.
Why was he your hero?
Trayvon saved my life. At the age of 9, he pulled me out of a fire, went back in the house, got the phone, came back out, called 911. He saved my life. And at his time of need, I wasn't there to save his life, but I pledged my life to continue to push forward until we get justice for my son.
Well, you all have both said that you do not want his death to be in vain, and I don't think that that has happened, because now, as I said before, every conversation with our young sons about how to react if you're ever in an encounter with the police or someone in an authority position. Had you all ever had that conversation with Trayvon?
Yes, we have.
What did you told him, Sybrina?
Well, we talked to him, of course, about the birds and the bees, but this was a different conversation. We have talked to him. Trayvon has a grandfather that is a retired police officer in Miami. So he knows to respect authority. He knows about the police. He's not afraid of the police. However, he's seen this guy as a stranger. So of course, he's going to try to run. He's going to try to get away. He's going to try to avoid any situation. And that's what we really believe, that he was really trying to get away.
Does it make any sense to you that he would have confronted George Zimmerman, especially if you're saying he had no idea who he was?
No, he would not have confronted him. Trayvon did not have a weapon on him. It just makes more sense just to, if you have a gun to confront somebody. It's clear to us that he was trying to get away.
It's my understanding that you all have been invited to the Justice Department to meet with officials there. Does that give you some encouragement that this case is being taken very, very seriously?
We've met with the Justice Department on yesterday.
Yeah, I had heard from our reporter that you had been invited to Washington to go down to have further conversations.
Yes, that's a separate meeting, but on yesterday we did meet with the Department of Justice.
All right.
They talked about their investigation.
All right. We thank you. We thank you, Tracy Martin and Sybrina Fulton. Again, I am so sorry this